For more analysis on this, we're now joined by political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze from Unisa, and he joins us via our video link. Professor, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Of course, tomorrow at 7 o'clock, many South Africans will be tuned in to hear from President Cyril Ramaphosa as he delivers his last State of the Nation address for this administration. We've heard from various quarters, various political parties represented in Parliament. What are your expectations when it comes to what he would be focusing on when it comes to him delivering the Sona tomorrow?
Yes, the Sona's addresses normally focus in the first instance on economic matters. It's dominated by economic issues, by looking at where the economy is, an assessment of it, plus then what many of these parties also refer to is the package that President Ramaphosa developed since he became president in 2018. That includes very much the energy situation, infrastructural development, foreign direct investment, job creation, as well as then the social welfare components also for those who are not yet fully sort of integrated into the economy. So that's in very broad terms what is the framework of what we can expect tomorrow night. I think it will also make an assessment or an evaluation of what the ANC's or government's achievements have been of the past 5 years, actually of the whole 30 years that they've been involved. And on the basis of that, you will then present a case to say, well, that the ANC has actually been making progress and being successful. I expect that he will try to be as upbeat as possible in that respect, given the fact that the public opinion is quite negative, quite critical at the moment.
And Professor, and that's what we essentially heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa when he delivered that January 8 earlier this year in the ANC, basically highlighting the achievements of the ANC government over the past 30 years. And this time around, when he delivers the State of the Nation address, do you think that he will try and speak directly to the electorate as we head to the 2024 elections? Do you think he'll be trying to make promises to the electorate?
Well, this Sona address is going to be relatively close to the election. So it's inevitable that all political parties, those comments that you've just presented to us also, is seen through or interpreted through the lens of the elections that are coming. It's inevitable. It's not that any of these parties can present a sort of an objective view which is completely separated from the election. So the Sona address will be the same. It will be within the context of the election that comes. But what is unique this year, every time there's a general election, is that there's actually two Sona addresses. So I would call this the preliminary one, and the real Sona address will be after the election, when they have been elected the president again and the parliament established, that there will be then another Sona speech. And I think that one will give us a more realistic view of what's in the pipeline for the government for the rest of the year.
And as you touch on that, saying that as much as we know that this Sona will be taking place tomorrow, because of the elections, we'll have another address by the President of South Africa. Do you think that because of these two State of the Nation address, that the President will be able to unveil anything new with this State of the Nation address, which we are expecting tomorrow?
I don't expect much in that respect. I think one should always understand that the Sona, the address, is in a sense the foundation, the policy foundation or the programmatic foundation of the national budget that will be announced later in February by the National Minister of Finance. These two are linked, and as you indicated earlier on, it's actually linked to the ANC's January 8 statement also. So there's going to be a lot of overlap between these different policy statements or frameworks that have been developed. So I think there is President Ramaphosa might introduce some new elements, but I don't think it's going to come with a completely new policy. Remember, they are now at the end of their 5-year mandate for all the political parties, but especially the governing party. So strictly speaking, they don't have at this stage really a mandate to start with very new policy approaches.
And when we talk about this administration that's coming to an end in the next couple of months, when we hear the declaration of those elections, how would you characterize the past 5 years? I mean, we've heard from political parties criticizing President Cyril Ramaphosa for what he has done, many saying empty promises, and really not much has been done by this administration. When you zoom into, in terms of what he has managed to do coming into office 5 years ago, how would you characterize this administration?
Well, I would say this 5 years, since 2019, was a period of almost crisis management. It was crisis management in the first instance because of the COVID pandemic. So it was literally a crisis that had to be managed. Together with that was the crisis, especially with regard to energy. At the same time, we started to see crises with regard to service delivery and infrastructural problems. We see it now with, for example, the railways and with Transnet and the harbours. So for President Ramaphosa, it was a way of simply how to survive, how to be able to turn around some of the most problematic components, and especially that is infrastructure, and also how to survive in terms of the way within the ANC, how to deal with the corruption. And it was something which many people will say wasn't very successful. It wasn't very visible, although I think behind the scenes many things happened in that case. SARS, for example, is a good example of how institutions that was almost down and out have been resuscitated to a large extent. But I think the overall judgment of the public, it remains very critical.
At the same time, I mean, this is an administration that said it would create more investments in this country and basically creating more jobs. And that was part of the focus for this administration. What do you expect to hear tomorrow when it comes to challenges looking at the economy and creation of jobs? I mean, more young people, we have unemployed graduates in this country, and they will be hoping to hear something more tangible with the programs which have been outlined by the president in his previous addresses.
Yeah, I think we should not expect major new announcements in this respect. I think he will emphasize the fact that they have to some extent stabilized the situation. I think the last 2 times there was the statistics provided about employment or unemployment, there actually was an increase in the employment. And as a result of that, it's not necessarily visible, but it is something which is very much turning around the current situation. And I think so President Ramaphosa will emphasize that. But what I think what is going to be seen is that there will be more emphasis, for example, on education, given the fact that we've seen of how many pupils or students are not completing their studies. Yeah. That is for the future, the foundation for economic development.
Professor Kotze, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you here on SABC News. That is a political analyst, Professor Dirk Kotze from Unisa, just giving us his expectations when it comes to the State of the Nation address, which will be delivered tomorrow by President Cyril Ramaphosa.